In February, I released a video discussing an upcoming hero shooter by the name of Last Flag. This game was notable for a few things, but by far the strangest was that it was being created by the lead singer and manager of Imagine Dragons, you know, the world-famous rock band. This is the only instance of a band making a multiplayer video game for PCs in the history of video games. Well, I guess Weezer was in Fortnite. It was also the first Capture the Flag game mode I've seen in a shooter to really nail what makes the mode so fun. In that video, I talked about what Last Flag gets right, what it struggles with, and what the hell a Banshee is. Since then, a lot has happened. I've gotten to talk with one of the devs personally, give them feedback, and even play with them on stream. Fast forward to today, and Last Flag has finally been released to the public. As with the last video, the folks at Night Street Games have sponsored this video and given me full reign to say, essentially, whatever I want about their game. A lot has changed from the open beta playtest to the final release of the game, and I'm here to go over all of it, from the bad, the good, and everything in between. So let's take a second look at Last Flag. First, I want to talk about the price. Shockingly enough, Last Flag isn't a free-to-play, battle pass-ridden, microtransactions-filled slopfest like many might assume. I feel like hearing the words hero and shooter in quick succession often triggers people's fight-or-flight response. It's like a sleeper cell activation code for traumatized gamers everywhere. But no, Last Flag is a pay-to-play multiplayer game, going for $15 dues on Steam. For some people, this may be seen as a downside. Today, pretty much every publisher and gaming company has some sort of free-to-play multiplayer game under their thumb. From the outside, it would make sense for Last Flag to follow this trend, as it would likely make them more money and artificially inflate their player count on Steam. But what you may not be considering is that Dan and Mac Reynolds actually play video games. When I was in 3rd grade, my "what do you want to be when you grow up" answer was, run a video game studio. Oddly specific, but I guess I really meant it. Dan and I grew up playing Capture the Flag in the woods at night with flashlights, friends, and lots of adrenaline. Last Flag is our attempt to honor the purity and magic of that hide-and-seek experience, brought to life by the incredible team of developers we're lucky enough to stand beside. We all know the blight that these free-to-play games have been on gaming in recent years, predatory business practices and all. These days, it's common for games to not even be properly owned by consumers, with all of the in-game cosmetics you paid real, actual money for being completely worthless if the publisher so much as gets bored. Refreshingly, you can get all the content in Last Flag, every skin, emote, achievement, etc., by just playing the game. A shocking prospect, I know. And for what's on offer right now, I think $15 is entirely reasonable, especially considering that new characters, maps, and modes are going to be added progressively as the game gets updated. Speaking of which, let's get into the actual content Last Flag has added since the playtest back in February. The main point of interest is this new map, Snowfield. It's obviously a wintry map, you know, with snow and shit. The main way in which this map differs from Copper Falls, you know, aside from the aesthetic, is that this map is much more vertical in nature. There's a lot more of a focus on up and down movement, with all 3 radar towers having several varying points of elevation to attack enemies from. It makes defending these radar towers much more difficult than on Copper Falls, as there are many places for enemies to attack you, while making it difficult for you to get to them and attack them back. Skyfire and his jetpack do really well here. What this results in gameplay-wise is that battles over towers in Snowfield tend to be bigger teamfights as opposed to 1v1s, especially in Tower B, which is surrounded by a big castle. Speaking of this point, it's essentially my favorite tower in either of the maps, specifically because of this upper level surrounding the point. It makes for a fun challenge when you're defending, because you often have to find a creative way to make it up to the attacker's level and take them down. Putting the defender immediately on the back foot like this is what I prefer about Snowfield over Copper Falls. The latter saw a lot of points where you could see enemies coming from a mile away, picking them off before they ever reached the point in the first place, or just trapping the point so hard that they can't make a push. But on Snowfield, the attacking team is almost always putting the defending team in a situation where they actually have to figure out a clever way to stop from being killed. It's a significant improvement gameplay-wise, at least in my opinion. The amount of unique flag hiding spots is also really cool and well done, as it was with Copper Falls. There's a greater focus on visual contrast in Snowfield, with the warmer lighting being used for many of these hiding spots, making them easier to find for both the team hiding and finding the flag. My biggest complaint with Snowfield is that it's much more easy to get confused and not know where you are. On Copper Falls, the buildings are all color-coded on each side, similar to that of Team Fortress 2, so it's easy to look at a building and know which side you're on. On Snowfield, at least at a glance, it's much harder to immediately figure out where you are if you get turned around. Snowfield does have color-coded elements, but they are much more few and far between compared to Copper Falls. This is an issue with snow levels in minigames, but when everything is covered in the same white blanket, the environment can tend to feel very flat, which is a significant problem in a game where you need to know what side of the map you're on at all times. Other than that though, Snowfield is an excellent addition to the map pool, and one that's distinct enough from Copper Falls to warrant its inclusion in Last Flag. Wow, that was so fun and interesting. Now let's spice things up by talking about the most intellectually stimulating part of any game, the user interface. I know, everyone is very excited. Last Flag's UI is generally alright, and it's actually been improved in multiple ways since the beta. However, I also think it's easily the worst part of the game. First, why can I not ping the map? I can hit the number keys to ping the 3 radar towers, which is good, but why can't I just hold tab or something to click the map itself? This game is largely dependent on the map for understanding its gameplay. People have to be looking at it near constantly so they can try and deduce where the flag is. If I see an enemy in this clip running toward A3, I should be able to ping them and let my team know where they are. It's a very basic form of communication that I think is paramount in a game like this. Second, there's a new scorekeeper on the right side of the screen that tracks something. I'm not actually sure how it determines who's winning and losing, and I don't think the game ever tells you. Either way, it should definitely be moved up here to make it more visually clear, and also more directly inform the player what it's tracking. Third, there's no kill feed, and no visual to tell you who's alive on the other team. This is again, incredibly important to understanding the game. If I notice that a bunch of the enemy team is dead and have a respawn, I can go, everyone's dead. I can go get their flag without them noticing. Except, I can't do that, and instead I have to cry in the corner because I have no idea how many people on the enemy team are dead or alive. Fix these 3 things, and the game is just so much better. I'm sorry for the random UI rant, I just really needed to get all of that off my chest. One of my biggest complaints in the beta was the buggy, messy, and generally janky movement. There were a lot of moments where things like the launch pads or the sliding or the movement abilities would interact with each other in ways that didn't make all that much sense intuitively. Well, I'm happy to announce that they fixed most of my issues. Pretty much everything about the movement I complained about has been fixed. Most movement abilities are much quicker and snappier, sliding down ledges especially feels way more gradual and has more momentum, and you can now use jump pads while downed, which is very fun and silly to pull off as an escape. The only real nitpick I have is that I think jumping after a slide should carry more forward momentum. Right now it kinda sends you up more than forward, which doesn't feel as good as in, say, Deadlock, where momentum carries better. Other than that, the game feels so much better to sit down and play. Even aside from the movement, pretty much every issue I complained about in the first video was addressed in some way. A lot of the abilities that felt kind of difficult to visually understand are now much clearer and less noisy. The radar towers now reveal the map quicker, which makes games more hectic and overall fun. The game obviously isn't perfect. There are some characters that aren't as good as other characters, some balancing tweaks that could be made, but all of that is really just nitpicking in the grand scheme of things. Because the core gameplay of Last Flag is, as I talked about in my last video, really refreshing and interesting. Even with my complaints and criticisms, the game is a blast to play, and the matchmaking system has been entirely consistent throughout all my time playing the game. It's honestly rare to see day 1 of a multiplayer game go this well. Usually it looks something like this instead. Oh, the misery. It's a stupid joke. Jokes aside, it's awesome to see a couple of guys who have been uber successful in the music industry take their money from that and use it on an entirely different art form that they're passionate about. And I think that what they've done here is absolutely worth checking out if you're interested in Capture the Flag, or just want to have a good time with friends. There's an affiliate link down below if you're interested in downloading and playing Last Flag, and supporting my channel in the process. If you do use my link, then you get a free exclusive skin of my favorite character, courtesy of the developers. Thank you again to Night Street Games for sponsoring this video, and if you'll excuse me, it's getting a bit dark outside. In fact, I think it's approaching dusk. Stay lucid. Bye-bye.